Dark Fringe Radio, your premier source for the paranormal, conspiracy theory, and true crime.
Coming to you live from the Mistopheles Studios, it's Dark Fringe Radio.
Hey, welcome guys, and good evening on another edition of Dark Fringe Radio, episode 101, Jay. And,
101, Dark Fringe 101,
101
in session.
That's correct, yes. And of course, can't do this without my co-host, Jay Galosi. How are you this evening?
Wonderful.
Awesome, brother. You listen, we have a very special episode tonight. We're going to kind of move away from the paranormal and the conspiratorial, and we're going to actually go to some really cultish true crime stuff, man, tonight. And we're going to be covering the Jonestown Massacre. And
not Jamestown, people.
No. That was a little sidebar conversation we had prior to the opening of the podcast. FYI for all you people, me and Jay were just making sure we were on the same page, and yes, we were on the same page. Thank God, the Jonestown Massacre. But there is a Jamestown Massacre, but that's a completely different topic, and we'll get into that later. But the Jonestown Massacre is what we're actually going to be focusing on tonight. Of course, the leader Jim Jones and that whole man,
debacle.
What a crazy story. Yeah, I mean, and the crazy part about it, Jay, it wasn't that long ago.
No. It really wasn't.
It really wasn't that long ago. It was in the early 70s. It's something that we just don't really talk about really anymore. You don't really hear about it anymore. But
no, we kind of swept that shit right under the rug, man.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that was
a lot of messy stuff there. Like, there's some
and you know what the crazy part about it is that nothing else kind of compared to it since maybe like Waco. Remember David Koresh and all those fucking people over there in Texas? I think it was Texas, right? It was Waco. Yeah, Waco, Texas, where they had the whole shootout.
It was Waco and David Koresh. Yeah, but that was still different.
Yeah, that was different.
This goes to a whole new level.
Yeah.
This is on a level all completely its own. But we will digress because we're getting too deep into this thing, man. We're ready to jump into it, Will.
Yeah. We're already getting into it too deep, as Jay is saying. But to divert from the main topic, wanted to let everybody know how you can listen to the podcast. Very simply, you can go to our website, darkfringeradio.com. Make sure you just go right there. You can listen to all the stream sites. Oh, by the way, Jay, I'm not sure if you saw this or not. Earlier last week, we have expanded the Dark Fringe universe onto extra platforms, and now we are on Amazon Music. So people that have like an Amazon Prime account, you can also listen to music through your Prime account, and you can also listen to podcasts through your Prime account. So if you have a Prime account, look up Dark Fringe Radio. You can actually subscribe to us and listen to us, and you can see when the new episodes pop up right away. They'll just pop up as a notification on your phone through your Prime account. And it's also another cool way to listen to the podcast, Jay.
Prime account is okay.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. So just look up through your Amazon Prime account. Yeah, go to the music. Yeah, go to the music section. You can actually look at different music and different podcasts. You can go ahead and just subscribe to us, and make sure you leave us a rating and a comment. That really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate that. And of course, if you're using any of the other streaming sites, make sure you do that as well. We really appreciate it. Also, want to let everybody know about the YouTube channel as well, at Dark Fringe Radio. Just go ahead and go there, and all the episodes are there for your viewing pleasure. Which I definitely recommend to you guys. We put extra, attention and effort into doing the video for this podcast. So make sure you go ahead and do that. And what else, Jay? I think I'm forgetting anything else. No, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, social media. Just go to Dark Fringe Radio, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at Dark Fringe Radio. So that's pretty much it, Jay. I think I fucking covered everything up right there.
I think you covered it all.
Yeah.
You did kind of as the crow flies, for sure.
Yeah. I was on 10th gear right there for a second there. No cocaine. No cocaine. I swear to God.
Woo, just squirrel.
Squirrel, exactly. Yeah. Okay, but tonight, Jay, I just wanted to get into one topic tonight before we got into What the F Florida Man. And Jay, I don't know if you saw this this piece of news that came out, but there was a news segment in Australia that was talking about prison sentences and stuff like that. and it was ABC TV in Australia, and it was interrupted by a Church of Satan like clip, and you see these upside down crosses and stuff like that. And then one of them says like "Hail Satan" before the ABC fucking feed comes back in, and yeah, it was kind of like it was pretty disturbing. Yeah. All of a sudden, you see like this guy in his cloak, on this table, and just doing all the stuff, and then there's this person next to them, and then there's another person on looks like a chord keyboard doing the ominous like music, like dun, 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 dun,
But we all need our theme music to go where we go. Okay.
You know what? It's so weird though, like how these things happen like that though. Like, I don't know. Do you remember, Jay, the Max Headroom, the thing that happened in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember that or not, but yeah, there was a broadcast where there was this guy in this basically mask with a fucking, glasses.
All techno.
Yeah. Very techno, very 80s.
It was supposed to look like an android.
Right.
Supposed to be AI.
Right. Exactly. And it interrupted a broadcast pretty similar to this and was doing a bunch of shit there for about a minute and a half. And then it disappeared, and that was it. You never heard of it again. But I think it was like in the mid 80s when that happened. But yeah, again, here, Jay, we have another interruption of the news broadcast for the Church of Satan. Looks like
I did not hear that. Yeah.
Hey, man. Listen, go to our website, darkfringeradio.com, and you can actually go to our website and look at the feed. And it actually shows you the feed with the ladies talking, and it actually gets interrupted. And then you can all see for yourself. So I definitely implore every one of you guys, darkfringeradio.com. Go right there. Look up the article regarding the bizarre moment news segment is interrupted by a hellish satanic ritual. That's what it's named. You can see it right there on the front page.
It's a mouthful. They need to work on that title.
I know it's a little lengthy, but it's a news title. So that is a mouthful. But nonetheless, I implore you guys to go check it out. Please. Pretty interesting stuff there, Jay. But that, of course, brings me to the next segment for tonight, Jay, which is
sure does.
What the F Florida Man. And of course, for those that don't know and have not heard the segment before on our show, for you newbies, this is a segment for the show that Jay basically scours the internet for hours and hours on end.
I'm about to pop your cherry.
And looks for news stories that would only come out of the great, wonderful state that we live in here, Jay, of sunny South Florida. So, Jay, what do you have for us this week for What the F Florida Man?
So our What the F Florida Man, we are going to keep completely skim deep. We are not diving in on this one, William. We're not going to ask a whole ton of questions.
Are you sure? I mean, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of questions on this one already.
We are simply going to talk about imagery.
Okay,
Police say man with no hands and no legs is... I'm going to try that again.
Let's try that one again.
Police say man with no hands and no legs. There's no N in legs, just so you know. No legs. Is armed and on the run.
Ah, interesting. So how can you be armed when you have no arms?
Good question, William.
I know we're not supposed to be getting into it too much and just using imagery here, Jay. And
good question.
I get it. But
so he has a weapon on his person.
Okay. But he can't actually use it.
No. Well,
he would have to put it like between his toe and shit like that, and like do like a penguin thing like this with his flipper hands.
He is filled with anger enough to where he is determined to follow through with some said actions.
Wow.
So him and his woman broke up.
As every bad story happens, but go ahead.
And he had to move out of his house and into his parents' house. And
sounds like he was down on his luck.
Things went awry.
Sounds like he was a little short-handed. Sorry.
Ouch. Oh, man. Ouch. Just right at the knees, Will.
Sounds like he's running out of time.
Are you short on material?
There you go, Jay.
I say I always end it with a snap.
There you go.
So yeah, guys got.
So he broke up with his old lady.
He's armed and on the run.
He broke up with his old lady.
It sounds like she broke up with him, but yes.
Okay, and so he was distraught about it.
Yep.
And so he decided to take a weapon with him and go on the run.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll say that's how that went.
Okay, listen, I'll go with that. I mean, I don't know what else.
That's what we're gonna go with because I don't feel like anybody needs to be saddled with the rest of that information that came with that story. That story had a really funny title, and it starts off really funny, and it does not end off so funny.
No,
so we're gonna just leave it there. It's man with no hands, no legs is on the run and armed. Hey-o, pump, stop me if you heard it. That is Florida Man of the Week.
Man, listen, big ups to the guy on the run with no legs, man. I mean, that takes a fucking feet and a half right there, brother.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking,
man.
Holy shit. How can he, no hands, no legs, he's armed and on the run? Please explain. And then I got way more of an explanation.
Well, there you go, man. Well, listen, Jay, thanks so much for that story for What the F Florida Man. That's going to bring us to the main topic for tonight, which is the Jonestown Massacre. We're going to be getting to that here in a second. So please don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Mark Anthony. I'm known as the Psychic Lawyer and the Psychic Explorer. I'm the author of the bestsellers Evidence of Eternity and Never Letting Go. You're listening to Dark Fringe Radio.
All right, guys, welcome back to our another edition of Dark Fringe Radio. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on a very special topic, and it's actually the Jonestown Massacre. And for those that don't know, actually in the 1970s, 1978 to be exact, the Jonestown Massacre resulted in the death of more than 900 people in Guyana. It was
that's in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all part of the People's Cult, or the People's Temples cult, as they would call it. And it was headed by the notorious Jim Jones. And we're going to be getting into a little bit of the history of Jim Jones and, of course, the People's Temple. But of course, he was able to enthrall and engage people and mesmerize people to the point where they believed that they were going to be under attack. Yeah, under attack by the U.S. military, hence forcing upon one of the worst mass suicides in recent American history. So, we're going to be getting into all that, of course, tonight. It's a very sensitive subject, of course, because we don't. Suicide is a very sensitive thing, of course, in these days. A lot of people taking their lives, unfortunately, and it's so unnecessary for other things.
Mental health, the whole mental health system. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a shambles, Will. I mean, listen, we all go through our stuff, and none of us can get through all of it all on our own.
Yeah.
We need friends and family and people around us.
Yeah, you need a support system.
Everybody does. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. But when someone reaches out, and I'm only finding this out, actually, because I'm going through some stuff, and looking for someone to work with me, and that rate, I'm finding it terribly frustrating. So I could see where mental health today, it's so bad, and it messes so many people up because it's such a boondoggle. You have these people who are so mentally languished, they need help, they're reaching out, and the system right now is so backed up because too many people are reaching out for help when they don't need it too. It's some crazy times we live in. Wow,
yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not more signified in our time more now than ever. I mean, even with the recent Olympics with Simone Biles, withdrawing from some of the competitions that she was supposed to be in. She just couldn't do it, obviously, because of the stress level. And, it's just the mental stress that it creates, for a person. So, this is a very poignant story, if now than ever, because of all the mental illness that we're still dealing with now, in our time. And you know what, Jay, the really interesting part about this was of course, the main fixture of this whole thing, Mr. Jim Jones. He was an activist from the 50s and 60s. a civil rights activist. I mean, this guy was on the right side of the fucking, of the fight for a long time. Unfortunately, he took a turn for the worst. Unfortunately, well, we're all going to get into that here in a minute. But when he initially started, he started a church, one of the first integrated churches in the Midwest, which was unheard of during that time in the 50s and 60s. So there was things that he did early in his career that warranted a lot of people following him, and that's where he kind of garnered a lot of his reputation and his bravado and his way of being able to communicate and get his message across to other people, and to obviously unify people too, from different races.
Charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
He was intelligent. He was well spoken.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the right side of the fight. But it was once he started gaining that notoriety,
mm-hmm.
once he started realizing that there was a branding there, is when he started to believe his own bullshit.
And then there was a lot of paranoia that was involved, and I think, I think that was a lot to do with the mental issues that he had, mental health issues.
Right. It starts with that.
Yeah.
That mentality, that mental illness where that they really do start to believe that
everyone's against them.
It's not just that really, but of course everybody's against them because everything revolves around them.
Correct.
They are the alpha. They are the omega.
Right.
They are the word. They're the chosen. And that's how he kind of presented it. And nobody at any point stepped back and went, whoa, dude. Because we didn't know back then.
Yeah. And, us as people here now, we have advanced, obviously. I'm not saying that, we're any better, but we are smarter, I would say, because we learn from what we're more, and we've learned from what we've been through, right? Through experiences.
More aware. Absolutely.
Yeah. We ask ourselves, you and myself now, Jay, we ask ourselves, like, how could people lose that grip of reality, right? How could people lose that grip of reality? And just are so like easily just manipulated, and trying to get the answers to those questions is it's going to be very difficult, obviously, because the sadness of what happens at the end, of course, it's what takes precedence over everything, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ending is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, listen, go ahead, Jay.
Well, as you were starting to kind of talk about, one of the parts of this is the people it impacted, the people that kind of bought into it as well. The victims, the true victims who fell for it so hook, line, and sinker that actually drank the Kool-Aid, son.
Yeah, and that's where unfortunately the term comes from. Unfortunately, it's from this sad event.
That's exactly what it's from. And he was, at no point did anybody stop and say that it was like he was going above and beyond. I mean, he was popping pills towards the end. I think they said like the last couple of years of his life he was popping.
He was on all kinds of like painkillers,
medication.
Yeah. He was completely jacked up. I mean, he was on a downward spiral at the end. But when you look back at the whole, the evolution of the whole thing, Jay, it's just like you wonder why people like get into this shit, right? And we can say shit because we can look back on it and say, well, that's a fucking bad idea. Now,
hindsight does tend to be 20/20.
Exactly. We can look back and say, well, that's probably not a great decision. We can look back at that and say that, but at the time in the 70s, people were looking for an escape. They were looking for something where they were outside of racism. They were outside of being under the control of the government. They were looking for, something where they could work together as an integrated system, a utopia as sorts, where everybody got together. And there was a mixture of a lot of different races there, from African American to white to every other race, Hispanic, and in between.
The ideology on the base floor was good.
Yeah, no, it was. It really was.
even with the intense sense of self that he had and all the things he was doing to serve, to prove that he was the Messiah and to lead them to the mothership.
Right.
I mean, the intention itself was to help people. It just was a really psychotic way to do it.
Very psychotic.
Very psychotic.
Very psychotic.
But yeah, you were 100% right. You're going through the 70s. You know, you're coming out of the 60s, free love and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. And then you go into the 70s, which is disco.
Let's throw a little cocaine on the fire right there, right?
Yeah. So when you start adding in those, that's when the pharmaceutical, the stuff like cocaine and ecstasy really was starting to kind of like gain more traction, more the pharmaceuticals in the 70s into the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that people were looking for something. What he was offering was utopian, as you said, and of course people would buy into it without knowing much. It's the point where we're now going to drink this and die. Is at the end I would kind of go, wait a minute. Now there was some dissension in his ranks. There was some.
There was people that were definitely trying to get out. That was very well documented. They were scared though, because they were like, they already saw what happened to the people that tried to before.
They were under threat, and there were murders. He did kill some people,
right?
To keep some people quiet. Yeah.
Jay, I want to play an audio clip real quick, if I could. It's actually Jim Jones talking, and this is kind of where the road turns to the left, and he starts to go into the faith healing aspect, the evangelical part of it, and starts to get people like really hooked into this spiritualist kind of part of it, of the religion. And I'm going to play a quick clip regarding that. But yeah, this is kind of where things kind of take a turn, and he starts to realize, like what you said earlier, Jay, the branding of everything, learning how to work the system, brand yourself, make yourself look like the number one thing, the center of the universe, so on and so forth. So let me play this clip real quick here, Jay, and you can give me your thoughts on it as well.
When you're ready, you tell me, and I'll be ready whenever you're ready.
All right, see if you hear that.
I hear it.
Now, as we meditate, God is love. Love is a healing remedy. We're going to reach out to areas where man has seemed to have difficulty. As we concentrate that the gifts of the Holy Spirit might function, or what the secularists might speak of as the paranormal, let us believe. Let us believe. Sister Ingram, you're concerned about the losing of your sight. You're not able to see me clearly.
So just to pause right there real quick, Jay. He's talking to a parishioner that's there, a worshiper, a follower, Ingram, a lady. She's obviously having a hard time seeing. She's going blind. And this is the aspect of the faith healing that I was talking to you about earlier. I want to proceed now.
Things just blur to you. You have to stumble around lately through crowds and are not able to see even people's faces close up to you clearly. That's true. You've told me nothing about your condition. Is that correct? No, I haven't. Give that little sweetheart a little bit of love. Thank you, baby. Peace. Now, take your glasses off. Let's just dare in our faith. We've seen Sister Brown here, who was blind, totally healed.
Here's a scan.
Saw one of our sisters blind from her childhood. It could be hysterical blindness, whatever. We're not concerned. She was blind and could not see. Now, look at my face. I'm going to hold up some fingers concentrate hard. I love you. The people love you. And most importantly, Christ loves you. What do you see? How many fingers? 3.
The good old 3-finger, I'm holding the 3-finger up
Yep.
trick, Jay. I mean, yeah. I mean, listen, this is what people fell for back then. And not saying that people were not easily duped. I mean,
well,
people were easily
but
duped.
listen to how well spoken he was.
He was very well spoken.
Smooth.
Very smooth.
He was.
Yeah.
He
Tactful, mindful.
Speaks
Yeah.
with such a slow confidence.
Yeah.
And even with what he says, it made no fucking sense. But it didn't matter because it was just so absolute and matter of fact.
Yes.
So, and that's how they get you, bro.
Right. They mesmerize
you.
you with all that fucking talking.
That's right. It's slow. It's confident. They sound like they're so self-assured. But that's where you get in that slippery slope.
It's a methodical.
How much of your own bullshit do you buy?
Right.
We're all the hero in our own story, but we're also the villain.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that.
Right. Yeah.
And this is a classic example of he went so deep into his own bullshit. He really believed that he was the Messiah and that he was going to lead these people to this UFO, and that because of that fact, he should get to do whatever he wants. And a lot of things he wants.
Well, yeah, he became increasingly more paranoid, Jay, as the time, progressed, and, regarding the world around him, of course. And his speeches began to reference a coming doomsday, the catalyst, as a lot of these religions call. He was saying it was a result of a nuclear apocalypse that was brought on by our government mismanagement at the time, of course. But he still continued to enjoy the local support, or the popular support, of very strong relationships at the time, Jay. Leading politicians such as like the First Lady Rosalind Carter, California Governor Jerry Brown, and the media was starting to turn on him, basically, little by little. That's what was going on. So what was going on, Jay, as the media started to turn on him and these things started happening, several high-profile members of the People's Temple started to defect, and there was conflict with a lot of vicious things that were thrown back and forth in public from the people who defected, and of course the People's Temple.
Right.
It was just a lot of back and forth mudslinging, and basically the organizational structure was ossified, and basically it was basically broken down. It was just, at this point, Jay, things were starting to kind of like break down for Jim Jones. This was kind of like almost the beginning of the end for him. Even though he was making a lot of moves, this is kind of where he decided, let's take what we have here in California, and we need to move it somewhere where we are not, we don't have any extradition issues, and it's a socialist government. So what did they decide to do, Jay? They went to Guyana.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do.
When you want to start your own utopia, where else would you go?
Well, it was not actually a very good place. Actually, in retrospect, it wasn't actually a very good place to set up camp. The soil was unfertile, so you couldn't really do a lot of crops on the field there, even though he was claiming a lot of things were being done. Actually, Jay, I want to play a clip where he kind of up-talks the Jonestown area and what he believes is, to be a utopia here. He actually talks about it, and he describes the things that they're actually trying to do here. Let me just pull up this clip here, if you don't mind.
Down. You can edit all this shit out.
Here we go.
This is the hottest part of the entire year, and they're doing real well. We've not lost any chickens. This is a heating lamp. These are the small chickens in another one of the coops.
Just talk about the chicken coop that they have there, Jay.
These are small babies that we've just took. They've just been hatched.
I picked that up when he said chickens.
Again, a different breed of chickens has just hatched. In addition to the 8 other chicken houses, see the heating units to keep them warm. Everything modern, automatic water.
I'm catching
heater,
there's chickens.
Clean floor base with the wood chips. That we can. There's 6 inches of those that we remove, so that we can keep absolutely sanitary condition. We've lost none of these chickens either. This is a feed barn packed for the thousands and thousands of chickens we now have, and there's the pasture for our cattle. Back over here is the area that we're clearing for, way to my right, Mike, is the area that we're clearing for more.
Oh, by the way, if you guys will actually want to watch the video, just look up Jonestown depiction by Jim Jones. It actually shows you the breakdown of the areas. It actually shows you photos and people working on the land there. Very interesting stuff. I could see where they were going with all this, Jay. I mean, like you said, Jay, on paper, great idea. Execution.
Sounds great in theory.
Yeah, in theory and execution.
I mean, I'm all about trading some chickens for sex. I mean, that's. Wait,
yeah.
We're not talking about a chicken ranch, are we?
No, we're not talking about the.
They said
we're not talking about the bunny ranch in Nevada. No, that's a different ranch.
It's Texas. So, yeah, it's in Texas. It wasn't Texas either. Off point. Yeah, it was just his fascination with chickens alone is very strange. I can't get past just how many times he said fucking chickens. I'm sorry. That's what got caught. It's just every other word he said was fucking chickens. I couldn't get past it.
Yeah, no, listen, they had they had all these ideas of what they were going to do, but unfortunately where they ended up deciding to set up camp was just not a great area. Like I said earlier, the soil was just not good.
You're never going to get free land for shit.
Well, no, and not only that, you have so many fucking people you have to take care of too. That that takes a lot of food. You know what I mean? When you have like over 1,000 people in a camp, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's a lot of fucking heads you got to feed there and a lot of bellies. Not to mention they're fucking having kids, and you know what I mean? And it just keeps on going on and going on and going on. You know what I mean? So great in theory. Just to execute.
But with no infrastructure.
None whatsoever. And so, Jay, as things progressed, people
talk about cows.
Say again?
Does it get all crazy with cows too?
Yeah, no, it doesn't get crazy with cows. But he started getting a little bit more off script, Jay. Started getting to the point where he was taking more drugs, like you were alluding to earlier. That
will happen.
His sobriety was completely gone. He was not sober at all. No. He was pushing all of his workers, basically working 10-hour days.
Yep.
So his workers, there was a lot of dissension towards the end, like you were alluding to earlier, Jay, as well. There's people who were trying to leave, too scared to leave. Some people tried to leave and were caught and were basically tortured to the point where they would never even would think about even trying to escape ever again. So
if they ever left the jail cell, if they ever left those rooms.
Yeah. I mean, so again, he was starting to lose his grip of reality, Jay. I mean, his health was deteriorating.
Oh,
he was taking lethal combinations like we were talking about earlier of amphetamines and painkillers. His speeches, he would actually pipe through the speakers at all hours of the day. So like it would be like 3:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden you hear this guy starts preaching to you. You know what I mean? And that's just like, you know what? I mean, I you know what that is? That's conditioning. That's what you're doing. That's what psychomantics right there at that point. He would actually make people think that he would say to the African American supporters that were there, he would tell them that the here in America and here in the United States that we were actually forming concentration camps and actually putting Black people in them. So there was just all these types of things that he was just doing, and these conspiracy theories, the wrong kind of conspiracy theories, not the kind of conspiracy theories that we talk about here on Dark Fringe Radio, but these conspiracy theories that kind of push a narrative of something to kind of push something, ahead.
And a dangerous one at that.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Super dangerous one. You get people thinking they can do things just because. It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, so he got people to the point where, they were like believing every word that he was saying. It was conditioned in their brains. He got them to thinking to the point, hey, listen, the U.S. government's going to come here any minute and come in here and just start taking people out left and right. And people were like on edge because of this. Next thing you know, there was a representative from the United States. His name was Leo Ryan. and he decided to go into Jonestown and bring people over there and to investigate what's going on. What happened was that he went there, he found people that did not want to be there anymore, which he said that if he did find people there that didn't want to be there anymore, that he would take them and bring them back to the United States. And he brought these people's family on this, this trip with them, and to actually see, what these people were, dealing with. And, at first it was okay. It seemed like the things were going to be okay. But as they were leaving on the airstrip, Jay, they were basically gunned down and killed. Yep.
The planes were trying to add as many people as they could in an emergency.
Right.
As people were being shot, just trying to get to safety.
Yeah, exactly. So you have this representative from the United States congressman just basically killed, amongst other people, obviously, who were killed. And so, of course, the heat's on. And he knows that the heat's on at this point, and it's going to come down pretty fucking hard on him.
Yep.
And so he basically convinces his followers that the U.S. military is going to come down any minute, which probably would, not for them, not for the people, but for Jim Jones.
Yeah, no, he was going to be in some shit, so he wanted everybody to go down with him.
Correct. And basically convinced them to drink out of a vat of Kool-Aid that had cyanide laced, that was laced with cyanide, I should say, more appropriately, and commit a mass suicide. And for those that did not want to take the Kool-Aid, they were given the option to be shot to death. Yep. And that's basically what happened on that horrible November day in 1978, Jay, November 19th. The worst part of this whole thing, Jay, is because it was so recent, the video footage and the photographs from the helicopters, circling. You can see it was like a litter of dead bodies.
Yep.
Just strewn across this area. You think it was like trash, like it looks like from afar, it looks like garbage. But when you start to zoom in closer, you start to realize that it's people just laying there on the ground, face down. Men, women, children, of all races and colors. Very sad. It's very impactful. And Jim Jones himself did not drink the Kool-Aid, as everybody would find out after. Of course, as most psychopaths in that position, they do not follow through with their own prophecies and their commitment to the prophecy. And Jim Jones ended up shooting himself in the head. Obviously, he knew his days were numbered at that point anyway. So his suicide was.
But he didn't want anybody talking about the atrocities that he committed, the things that we'll never know. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wish I could get somebody on the podcast here that actually was, maybe had some type of experience to this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to, but this is something that was so impactful for a lot of people, Jay, because they were looking for a way out, and unfortunately, they found themselves in the worst,
the wrong way
scenario.
out.
Yeah, no, the worst possible scenario. It's just I couldn't even imagine the choices and the struggle that those people had to go through. I mean, talk about it. If there was any of there was a haunted area, that probably would be one of the most haunted areas ever. No,
I'd be curious.
Right?
I wouldn't go anywhere near it, but I'd be curious.
I know you would not, Jay. Me, I'm okay, but I'm worried about the people around that area. That's what I'm worried about more. You know what I mean?
I don't worry much about that.
Gosh, Jay, I mean, so many people lost their lives, over 900 people in one day. I mean, that's just, I just couldn't even imagine. But
no, it's awful.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it leads into, there's always like every generation has one of these kind of people, right?
Yeah.
Right. Every 10 years, there's a guy like this that kind of pops up on the radar, pops up on the map, and has a following of a certain amount of people.
Yep.
It's very
hopefully
strange.
that will be lessening with a better understanding of and a better sensitivity and awareness to mental health and getting people proper treatments, and there really is an upswell of mental health. I know I started the podcast off with a bit of a lament to my own personal shit, but that's just my own personal shit. I feel like on the whole, our generation is certainly more accepting of the mental and emotional challenges that people go through on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like even though we have so much more division right now than we've ever had, and there's a lot of animosity from a lot of different sides for a lot of different good reasons. I do feel like the one place where we all connect to is if someone's really bad mentally, like we just don't mess with that person anymore. Like, you see a lot of people, that in our Father's Day and our Grandfather's Day would have been like rub some dirt on it and piss off.
All right.
But now you have people like the gymnast, Simone Biles.
Simone Biles, right? Yeah.
Who just said, I mean, I don't know how many other athletes I heard coming out and saying, that's kind of part of being an athlete is dealing with that pressure. But let me tell you, do you know the amount of strength it took for her to say that? Now, yes, I also get that kind of once you get there, maybe you should do, like, it's hard for me to say. None of us can really say. None of us have been in that position. That's
a very
like a
unique, that's a unique experience in itself. Right?
And how much strength, because that had to be the hardest thing in the world for her to do.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not like she just took the easy way out and was like, sorry guys, don't feel like competing because I'm scared I'm gonna lose. It had nothing to do with that.
Right. She flat out said, listen, it's the mental stress of it all. I can't deal with it.
The moment.
Yeah, I can't deal with it. I'm sorry. Yeah. And you know what? Much respect to somebody who can actually come out and say something like that. Like you said, Jay.
It's unbelievable. And God bless a lot of these athletes and everybody who's coming out now more for mental health, mental awareness.
And it's harder to be an athlete these days, I think, more than it was back then.
Way more.
Yeah, because you can't even say nothing wrong now. Like, you end up saying the wrong thing on Twitter, you're fucking banned for life.
President Trump.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's one example, but yeah, listen, listen, it's so easy to get canceled these days. That's another thing. Cancel culture, it's become so prevalent now. I mean, that will
be another episode for another
time. That is a whole nother episode.
That's a whole episode onto itself.
Yeah, definitely. But that is an issue. That is an issue. Yeah. Yeah.
Cancel culture is an issue. It's an
I mean, like, say for instance, some guy who is a senator now and like he did blackface in 1978. I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah. You were an idiot for doing blackface in 1978, but what have you done since then? I mean, have you, you know what I mean?
Have you learned?
Have you learned? Yeah. Or are you still the same idiot? Because if you're still the same idiot,
if you're still the same racist sack of shit, then
right. Yeah, let's cancel
light you on fire and leave you at the door of the White House for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Did I say that? I didn't say that.
No politics on this podcast, Jay.
I don't know if that covers politics. I mean,
it doesn't.
That was just some anarchist
violent. Right. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it wasn't even.
You're right. But it's so hard to be, like you said, Jay, an athlete these days. It's you have to like basically climb through a minefield on your tippy toes. You know what I mean? Constantly. So, like you said, Jay, big ups to those people now. I mean,
big ups. And on a whole, as a community, I mean, really, as a society, for the most part, I see a lot more willingness and a lot more sensitivity and awareness towards those who are either going through something mentally, emotionally, or anybody who I'm realizing so much more kindness to those who need it, which really, if we're going to start, that's where we should start.
Yeah. It's so funny, Jay. I was just thinking about something. We talk about the athletes and how it's so hard to be an athlete these days.
Yeah.
Like I was watching a movie the other day. I've seen a million times. A League of Their Own. You've seen it.
I love that movie.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
Who hasn't, right? And so there's this one part of the movie where where Jimmy Dugan, of course, played by Tom Hanks, signs a baseball card for a kid, and on the baseball card he says, "Hey kid, avoid the clap, Jimmy Dugan," right? So if you were to do that nowadays, you know how fast you'd be ostracized. it's a perfect example of how hard it is to be an athlete nowadays.
How about Hawaiian Tropic?
Oh yeah,
Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You couldn't get away with that today.
No, you couldn't do it today. No.
Or I'll tell you what, I'll go one better.
Oh, which one? Oh, you want to go back?
I was talking to Blair about this just the other day. How about the movie The Toy? Did you ever see the movie The Toy?
That is so racist.
Richard Pryor.
He basically bought Richard Pryor, a black guy.
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
The premise, friends, is exactly that. Jackie Gleason is a wealthy senator with a son from his newest marriage who he doesn't know how to interact with because he's in his 70s.
Right.
And
this kid's like 13
and
11.
He owns a bunch of toy stores.
Right.
In the toy store, sees Richard Pryor, who is a janitor. He's an out-of-work reporter working as a janitor.
Mopping floors.
He gets bought.
Yeah. He basically gets bought like a slave to take care of his kid.
Could you make that movie today?
No. How about Soul Man? You remember that one?
One of my all-time favorite movies.
C. Thomas Howell.
Fantastic.
Oh, do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So so for those that don't know, there's a movie in the 80s called Soul Man, and it was with C. Thomas Howell, and he basically did blackface. And he did blackface so he could get a scholarship to the Negro College Fund so he could go to college for free. But he had to play a black dude. So check it out. Again, that movie would never be able to be made nowadays, like Jay says. It's just yeah, unbelievable.
Now,
Jay.
Let's go the other direction. What movie? I have a movie in mind that if you made today would actually have a better ending and probably be a much bigger hit that would be more commercially acceptable than it was in its day.
What's that?
Juwanna Man.
You know what? I never saw that movie.
Okay. Do you remember the premise of it though?
It was a basketball player
he was a mediocre basketball player that somehow realized if he dressed in drag and played as a woman, he could dominate and get all this.
Now I did see that movie. I did see that movie. Yes.
Ending because he ends up slam dunking, which women just can't slam dunk. Now,
well, now they can.
2021.
Yeah.
Man dresses as woman to succeed in sport is just topic of the time.
Interesting. Or how about a woman that gets banned from the women's league and goes into the guys' league?
And dresses like a guy and ends up out shooting Steph Curry.
Yeah, exactly. Twist right there, motherfucker. How about that? M. Night Shyamalan.
With a twist.
With the twist. Oh, that's great. Hey, man. Yeah, things have changed, Jay, unfortunately, in our time. But listen, I think that's a good wrap up for tonight. It's a good happy ending to this horrible tale of the Jonestown Massacre. And again, I hope we've learned from stuff like this. And we're able to have a good discourse regarding something like this and able to realize that how bad of a horrible idea this was. But yeah, nonetheless, I think that's a good wrap up for tonight. Jay, before we say goodnight to everybody, we have one more segment to go out with, and it's what to watch. So Jay, what do you have for us for this week for what to watch?
Apparently you and I were on the same wavelength as far as the era goes.
Oh, okay.
My what to watch is on Netflix. It's a mini series called Myth and Mogul John DeLorean. It's a 3-part series about John DeLorean, and there's an upswell of DeLorean fever right now. It's a hot topic to learn about. But I came across this series, and I like what they did. They did it a little bit different. They kind of filmed it and edited it and cut it in like an Ocean's 11 style. Because it was almost he was almost a con man like the Brad Pitt character in Ocean's 11.
George Clooney character. Yeah. He's constantly wheeling and dealing. It shows kind of how his life evolves, but it jumps around a little bit. It keeps you on your toes. It really weaves a good narrative, a very interesting narrative, but it's very specific and detailed as to what went wrong, how it went wrong, and how quickly it went wrong.
It's a really entertaining watch.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, of course, the DeLorean
trafficking cocaine.
Well, yeah, that'll put a damper on things. But of course, the DeLorean car, made famous by the Back to the Future movies, of course, that Marty McFly used to travel back and forth, Back to the Future. Badass looking car, though, huh?
A great car. 80s? Well, it's a cool ass looking car.
Yeah, for the 80s, it was a cool ass car. Right? Yeah. With the fucking the lifted up fucking
the gold wing doors.
Yeah, the gold wing doors. It's just like, it's so ridiculous.
All stainless steel body.
It's ridiculous.
Rear wheel, rear engine.
Hey, it's like when you take your refrigerator nowadays and make that into a car. That's what it looked like. With gold wing doors. That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. I mean, just amazing.
But back then, it looked like a fucking spaceship.
Oh, it was awesome. Well, Jay, thanks for that, for What to Watch. I really appreciate it. Again, just want to remind everybody how to listen to the podcast. Go to our website, darkfringeradio.com. Also, make sure you check us out on YouTube and all the streaming sites. Really appreciate that. Again, I can't do this without my co-host, Jay Galosi. And we'll have some more episodes coming up here for you guys in the future. We have some really cool guests coming up here as well. So just be looking forward to some more interviews with some people here in the future. We really appreciate that. And those people that are coming on our podcast. A lot to look forward to here on the next 100 episodes, Jay, since this is 101.
101.
This is the first step for another 100 episodes to make it 200. So, I appreciate it. And I thank everybody for tuning in for another episode of Dark Fringe Radio. And we'll see you guys again next week.
Thank you for listening to Dark Fringe Radio, recorded in the Mephistopheles Studios. Any correspondence can be sent to thedarkfringe@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening.